If you love the look of paint swipes on your cards, but you struggle to get the look that you're envisioning, this video is for you. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing 6 different ways to use the new Simon Hurley Paint Swatches stamp set. This new set is a 4-piece set of cling-mounted rubber stamps that create the most perfect paint swatches or swipes you've ever seen. And there's lots of ways to use them. One way is to use a paint swipe or swatch to house your sentiment. The smallest paint swipe from the stamp set fits a bunch of sentiments perfectly, so stamp it up with your favorite color ink. I'm using Clear Skies from Simon Hurley. I did stamp it about 4 times to get that really great impression. Lots of ink, lots of color. I love the peel apart background stamps. Just grab one of the funky chevrons and stamp the top and bottom of your card. Don't forget to take out the misty mouse pad or foam pad in there. The cling mount already has that foam on it. So I used the piggyback color for the top and bottom chevron, and then some VersaFine black onyx ink is perfect for the sentiment because it stamps over ink really beautifully since it's pigment. Another way is to use a larger paint swipe or swatch to house an image. To create a spotlight in the center of the card for my image, I'll use the round stamp from the stamp set, and I'll use some shooting star ink, and I will again stamp it several times to get a really great clear impression. Then I'll stamp an image from the spring chicken stamp set. I'll die cut that out, stamp a sentiment at the top, and now this is funny, I did stamp the "You're One Cool Chick," and then I do believe that's a rooster, but that's okay. I still think it's a very cool image and a really cute sentiment. You can use a variety of the stamps in this set to create your own abstract art background. For this card, I'm stamping all 4 images off the sides of the card, so I'll need to use the original Misty so I have plenty of room to maneuver around. So I have all 4 shapes stamped in 4 colors of Simon Hurley ink. I used Clear Skies, Shooting Star, Overzealous, and now Roar. Once I had all my images, I grabbed a sentiment from the framed Florals stamp set. That is a new stamp set for this release from Simon Hurley, and I lined it up in an open space of the card. I tried using some no diving ink, and I thought it looked cool, but I really wanted that look of the black ink again. So I went back to my black onyx ink, and I really think that pops off that abstract background. Try using a light ink with one of the larger paint swatch stamps, and then stamp and heat emboss right over it. I went back to the large rectangle from the stamp set and I stamped it in piggyback ink from Simon Hurley. I did stamp it several times. I love the packaging from Clear Stamps because the black image can help you line up exactly where you want your image and which image you want to use. So I just moved those images over that paint swipe to pick which one I wanted. Then make sure it's fully dry, add some anti-static powder tool, use some Versamark ink on the stamp, and then pour gold embossing powder on top because one of my favorite color combinations is pink and gold. Then just tap off the excess and heat set it. If you have a little spot that you missed and you want to fill it in but you don't have an embossing pen, you can use a small paintbrush with a little bit of water on it and get that spot just a teeny tiny bit wet and pour some of the embossing powder on top. Again, shake off the excess and then reheat set it. The water will hold it in place long enough for you to heat set it, and then it will melt to the card. I grabbed a sentiment from the framed Florals stamp set that says "I love you," and I stamped it in some shady ink. I had a little bit that I had to get off with a sand eraser, and then I matted it on some pink cardstock, and I love this look. You can really use soft or bright colors with these stamps. You can combine a larger paint swatch stamp with another background stamp from Simon Hurley for a stamp kissing effect. For this technique, you're going to need 2 stamps. So I have my background stamp, that peel apart funky chevron. I have the large rectangle on a Simon Hurley acrylic block, and I'm going to ink up the funky chevron and press the Simon Hurley acrylic block with the rectangle onto that inked up funky chevron. I have a piece of paper next to it that is a white piece of cardstock. I have the magnet that's attached at the top. That's what's great about this glass mat, is that it's also magnetic. So if you can't use your MISTI, that magnet will hold it in place. And then just make sure you use a lot of pressure and get all parts of the stamp. Since I'm not using the MISTI, I really want to get a good impression the first time because it's going to be impossible to completely match it up. So there you can see it's got the image of the paint swipe with that chevron on it. To create a multi-look of patterns on this card, I'm going to create a background with the Geo Circles stencils. There are 2 stencils in this set. So the first one, I will use some shooting star ink, and I'm going to lightly just run over the stencil with a domed foam blender. I don't want it to be too bright and opaque because I don't want it to compete too much with the stamp kissing that I already completed. The second stencil I can use with Roar ink, and so I'll have a little bit of a warmer card, yellow, orange, and then red in that image. Next, I'll use some Simon Says Stamp detail scissors to cut out that paint swipe image. So I will not make a perfect just border around the side, but I will try and make the effect of the paint swipe clear in how I'm cutting out this image. Then I will use some foam tape to pop this up on the background. Again, I just really like the mix of patterns here. I haven't done that in a long time. Again, use the packaging from that stamp set to figure out which one I want to use. This image is from the Inked Bloom stamp set, and there are matching dies to cut all of the images out. I will use another sentiment from the Framed Florals stamp set that says thanks for everything you do, and I inked that up with some VersaFine black onyx ink and then popped up those flowers in the corner. Try stamping with some Simon Hurley Lunar Paste for an amazing shiny artistic background. For this technique, I'm going to use the new Lunar Paste No Diving. I have a Simon Hurley palette knife. Just scoop some out, and again, just place it right on a glass mat. This is a great surface to work on. It cleans off so easily. Then spritz some of that Lunar Paste with a little bit of water to thin it out a touch, because then it will make it more like stamping with ink and less like paste. I have a piece of cardstock on that glass mat, again, hold in place with a magnet from my MISTI, and then just try and smooth out that Lunar Paste as much as possible. The first time I stamped it, I just stuck the stamp down and lifted it up, and it made some spots on the stamp that made it look like it was pulling the paste away. So I ended up sliding the stamp through the Lunar Paste, and then I have that stamp on a Simon Hurley clear acrylic block so I can just press it onto the white cardstock. So you can see there's still a little bit of that pull away effect, but the more you stamp it, the less of that you get, the smoother image. So I did decide to stamp 3 times in total, and you'll see that the last time that I stamp it, it is the smoothest. So if you only want one image and you don't want 3 stacked like I created here, you might want to stamp on some scrap cardstock first. But the result is super shiny and a really pretty artistic looking background. I will use some Distress Oxide in Prize Ribbon and some Distress Embossing Glaze together. If you use the embossing glaze with Versamark ink, it will be translucent. If you use it with the same color of Distress Oxide ink, you will have a more opaque effect. It will still be shiny, it'll be slightly raised, just like other embossing powders, but the difference is when you use embossing glaze with just a regular clear embossing ink, it will show up translucent, and I wanted that really opaque look, so I paired it with the Distress Oxide ink, and check that out. Still shiny, still raised, and a beautiful color. I did cut this panel down a little bit on both sides so that I could mat it on some similar coloring of cardstock, and then I just have a sentiment from that Inked Blooms stamp set, which I stamped and heat embossed with white embossing powder on that blue cardstock. I'd love to hear if you try to achieve that artistic look of paint swatches on your cards, and if you think these stamps might help you. Let me know your favorite of these techniques down in the comments below. If you want to see more of those new colors of Simon Hurley Lunar Paste, be sure to check out this video here. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. No, see, no, that was a little too weird. In and then out. Doesn't stay very long. Paint swatch. Okay, we're not on the clock here.